My god. As you can probably tell, I'm a pretty big fan of the Fire Emblem series, so today I want to show off my Fire Emblem collection to you all. I don't have every single game, some for obvious reasons, some because I bought them digitally, like when I was a teenager I would buy my games digitally, although like now I'm more so collecting physical games and like now I only have the Fire Emblem series. Like many during the Wii U and 3DS era, I started with Fire Emblem Awakening on the Nintendo 3DS. At first I was like, this isn't Mario, I can't control the characters! But yeah, I pushed myself to continue playing, and yeah, I just got really into it. This was the first game that I played that had like characters with depth and like an actual story outside of just like saving the princess and whatever. And now look what I've become. So Awakening may have been my first Fire Emblem game, but that was just my sister's cartridge that I was born and made a separate save and all that stuff. So the first game I actually owned may be a bit of a surprise. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. So in Europe, there's a bunch of stores called CEX, or as it's officially called, Sex. It's kind of like in-stock, but just second-hand stuff. So you're more likely to get stuff that like NES and SNES. Like my local one has a Virtual Boy game, but yeah, most of it is just the 360 wall. Anyway, one day in 2015, I went to my local CEX and saw that you had a copy of Radiant Dawn on the shelf for like £50, which is about $60 now. But compared to how it is like today, I just had to get it. For those unfamiliar, Radiant Dawn is actually the worst selling Fire Emblem game to release out of Japan, which doesn't make too much sense because it's the sequel to like the critically acclaimed Power of Radiance. It came out during the height of the Wii success. Radiant Dawn is incredibly ambitious with having like the most chapters in a single Fire Emblem game. It has a ton of voice acting. It came out a week before Super Mario Galaxy. Yeah, Super Mario Galaxy is one of the best games ever made and the 3D Mario that came out, and in comparison, Radiant Dawn is definitely one of the more polarizing games in the series. They removed support conversations, which made all the unique characters of Radiant Dawn incredibly bland and basic. The game was notorious for calling the default difficulty easy, so people would naturally choose normal and then get their ass kicked. And this game is something like Xenoblade Chronicles, where like you basically need a classic controller to play it. Like you can play it with a sideways Wii remote or Wii remote nunchuck, but like just look at this UI. Like the Wii was meant for this. But I still have a soft spot for this game. The writing can get a little silly at times, and you do kind of need to play Power of Radiance to get the full experience. But Ike is my favourite lord in the series. I always loved the guy's design, and like I said earlier, it is one of the most ambitious games in the series, both like mechanically and narratively. So this was back in like 2015 or so, and like I said earlier, this is around the time I was getting my games digitally, so it'll be a while until I get myself another Fire Emblem game physically. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. What a dumb title. Jokes aside, I love this game. This is my favourite Fire Emblem spin-off, and also my favourite Warriors spin-off. You can draw a lot of parallels between 3 Hopes and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, where both originally had a generic crossover spin-off thing like a few years back. And then the second Warriors game is like based more on a single game and was more of an alternate universe kind of thing. However, I will say that 3 Hopes it feels a bit more justified. I'm not sure that's the right word. While technically this is a spin-off of 3 Houses, the way that 3 Houses works is that you have like 3 different routes and you have no canon ending. So like 3 Hopes is essentially a 4th, 5th and 6th route of 3 Houses. I feel like I'm missing a route. However, I feel like that 3 Hopes and Age of Calamity have their pros and cons kind of reversed in some way. Because of how Breath of the Wild's story focuses a ton on the war that happened 100 years ago, I think many people, including myself, just wanted to see what actually happened during that war. And like we were happy having a sad story where like Ganon returns and like destroys the kingdom and like Link is defeated and all that stuff. But immediately as you play Age of Calamity, time travel is involved and it basically invalidates everything. Like everyone wanted a canon story, but like this is like very clearly not canon. Meanwhile, 3 Houses is an incredible game, but because of how like deep the story is, it's a little intense for some people and not everyone's cup of tea. So like by the time 3 Hopes came out, people were just kind of wanting like a silly little spin-off where you get all the lords and like their friends and stuff like that, because like there's no like good route in 3 Houses, like they all fight each other in the end. However, since 3 Hopes is essentially just a 4th, 5th and 6th route to 3 Houses, this is basically just 3 Houses but again, like politics and war. Not only that, but 3 Houses has a lot of questions that are intentionally left unanswered to like keep you speculating. And like we kind of expected 3 Hopes to answer a lot of them. We ended up just getting more questions than answers. But yeah, like I said earlier, this is my favourite spin-off, and also like 3 Houses is probably my favourite Fire Emblem game in the series. I'm not entirely sure on that, but like it's definitely high up there. So like with this being essentially just an expansion, like this is fantastic. So I got 3 hopes about 6 or 7 years after I got Radiant Dawn on the Wii. So like, at this point I was definitely more into collecting games physically. Surely my next game would be something like 3 Houses or something. Damn it. Fire Emblem, Mystery Emblem. So one day I was on eBay and I saw this game listed for like £16 or about $20 US, and while the manual was missing, this was a UK seller, so I didn't have to pay for like international shipping or whatever. So yeah, I had to get it. Like, this was probably the cheapest way I was going to get it. Not only was the price good, but a few moments earlier I got myself a Super Nintendo, and funny enough it came with a Super Famicom adapter, so I wanted to see if the adapter actually worked. Thankfully it does, but yeah, this is a bit awkward. You always need a second game plugged in to get around the vision lock-in. Now, if only I can actually read Japanese. Yeah, I haven't probably played this game yet, and there are fan translations online, and like I don't mind going to jail to play some Fire Emblem. But Mystery Emblem isn't exactly the easiest game to jump straight into. Not in terms of difficulty, but the first half of the game is a full-on remake of the very first Fire Emblem game, and it's mandatory for you to beat that before you can move on to Book 2, which is where all the new stuff comes in. The closest comparison is how Kirby Superstar on the Super Nintendo that includes a remake of Kirby's Dream Land from the Game Boy. However, the one big difference between the two is that Kirby is a 2D platformer, while Fire Emblem is a tactical RPG that takes like 20 hours to beat. While this does make Mystery Emblem hard to get into if you've already played everyone, which is what I did because it released on the Nintendo eShop during 2020, this is an insane game, considering you get like 2 games in one. Even though this only released in Japan for the Super Famicom, it sold almost 800,000 copies, and for comparison, that's like less than Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild sales, but it's better than like every other 3D Zelda in Japan. So yeah, if you can only read Japanese and you were stuck with one game, Mystery Emblem would not be a bad choice. Anyway, the next game is a present that a friend got me for Christmas, and oh boy, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. Why did you get this for me? I have no idea why you got me something so expensive. Like, we're friends, but like we don't talk much nowadays, and it's not like something where we give each other presents every year. Because I wanted it to be delivered to me by Christmas, they even asked the eBay seller to send it straight to my address, and thankfully the eBay seller was super cool about it. The eBay seller went out of their way to like wrap the game as an actual present, and then put the game in the box, and then like put on the parcel, do not open until Christmas. Like, they're like super grateful for my friend for getting this, and I hope the eBay seller got a positive review. Anyway, Path of Radiance is definitely one of the most expensive Fire Emblem games, because it's a niche series released on the GameCube in 2005. At that point, the Wii has already been revealed, and like the GameCube was not selling that great, but it's also generally considered one of the best Fire Emblem games in the series. Outside of testing the disc, I have not played this game much, but I did play through the entirety of Path of Radiance via emulation back in 2018 or so. Just logged me up already. I'm not sure if I would consider Path of Radiance one of the best games like in the series, simply because like there's no casual mode, there's no ability to rewind time, like supports are still a bit difficult to grind, but this is definitely one of the most well-rounded games in the series. For the time, the graphics were good, like especially the 2D portraits, they look fantastic. The lore and the characters, like they're super in depth and like very interested, and like this is the first game to have like CGI cutscenes and voice acting, like it's fantastic. It's been about like 5 or so years since I played Path of Radiance, so once I sort out a way to play it through HDMI, I'm definitely going to be playing this again. So at this point, I was really getting into the idea of collecting Fire Emblem games. Like, I just knocked off Path of Radiance, which is like one of the most expensive games in the series. So only 2 days later, I had Christmas money, and I wanted to get myself like a few games. Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones. I already talked about Awakening at the start, and like, yeah, I'm not sure what else I could say. It's a good game, it saved the franchise. Ooh, look at me. Although I will say that me buying Awakening was probably not my smartest purchase. This was £35 at CEX, and this was in December 2022. I thought this was going to skyrocket in price after the Nintendo eShop closed in March 2023, but it's now £28 at CEX at the time I'm recording this. So I'm down £7. Perhaps I should just sell some blood or something to make up for that. Anyway, after I got Awakening, I was just looking around the town, nothing fancy. I went into a cash exchange shop, and then I saw that it had the Sacred Stones there, loose, for also £35. I didn't already own the Sacred Stones on the Wii U's Virtual Console, while I never owned Awakening at all. So I'm not sure which purchase was better, but for roughly the same price as the new PS5 game, and the fact that this was Christmas money I got from my relatives, I'm still very happy with what I got. Like I said, I did already own the Sacred Stones, and I played through Ephraim's Route on normal difficulty. Since this was my second Fire Emblem game I played after Awakening, I was still kind of new to the series. but I definitely want to play through Erica's route and then like on harder difficulty. And yeah, Sacred Stones is a very good game. Most games have like a sequel or a prequel or something in it, but like Sacred Stones is very self-contained with its story, and while it's very simple, it has like some very dark moments, which like I believe this is a very good starting point for those who don't mind playing a GBA game. I really hope this game gets added to Nintendo Switch Online, as you get the rewind functionality just from the app itself, and like I know some like hardcore fans will kind of scoff at the idea of making a relatively easy game even easier. But accessibility is super important with like game difficulty and stuff like that. So like, Sacred Stones is a very good game, you should play it. This all happened in December 2022, and if you've been keeping track of like Nintendo news and stuff like that, you know that 1 month later we'll be getting a brand new Fire Emblem game for Nintendo Switch. Fire Emblem? Engage. This is definitely one of the more divisive games in the series, mostly down to the story, like it's generally not good, and the character designs are super over the top, like a lot of social elements from Three Houses were stripped away, but yeah, I still personally really love this game. It is one of my most played Switch games after all. Something I think we could all agree on is that the gameplay is phenomenal in this game. Like the emblem rings add so much depth, and like prior to launch I was a little worried that the game was going to be too unbalanced and like mindlessly easy, because like they just seem super overpowered. But like just the changes they made to stuff like the weapon triangle, it really made this game like surprisingly balanced and really fun. I do have some problems. Part of it is that the DLC is just horribly unbalanced in a bad way. Like it literally feels like it's untested for difficulties outside of normal, and for context I beat it on Man. Also, for the first time since FE5 I believe, this is the first time where everything is tied to a single save, so there's not really much of an incentive to replay the game outside of the story. Because like you can't like unlock support conversations with like the male and female earlier, like there's just no point to it, it's literally just if you want to replay it. But yeah, like I still love this game. If you haven't noticed already, this is actually the special edition of the game, because it doesn't include the PEGI rating on the front of the box. This is the only special edition of a game I own, and I'm not really into special editions in general. Like the stuff included is cool, but like I only look at them like once or twice, and I still have to pay separately for the DLC. But as the only special edition I own, I think this is very fitting, considering it's supposed to be like a very fanservice-y, like, oh, all the laws are here and all that stuff. At this point, this is the latest Fire Emblem game to come out, and there hasn't really been anything announced. With Celica having a more prominent role in Engage compared to other emblems, many of us believe that FE18 will be a remake of Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War. While Mystery of the Emblem is the first Japanese game I've ever owned, like Genealogy of the Holy War is the first game I got physically from Japan, like I just like ordered it on eBay. And like while it took over a month to actually arrive here, this is in fantastic condition. It even comes with a map of the game, and like I can actually read some of this. So right now I am playing this game via emulation with a translation patch. My settings just grew, but you can technically play this on Nintendo Switch Online if you create a Japanese account. But like the games are still in Japanese, so I can't really do much with them. But yeah, currently on chapter 3, the one with Eldigan. This is quite a bit different from other Fire Emblem games, where like this is just one giant map, and like you have multiple objectives during one chapter. Like I really want to see how a remake of this game would work. This was the main inspiration towards Three Houses, where things are a lot more political and like deals with more adult themes and all that stuff. I haven't played this in a while, but I definitely want to continue with this game. I haven't played much since Genealogy of the Holy War since, and that was because I got myself a job in game testing, but I had to like move away for a few months. So I didn't get much move games since, but I did get myself one game. Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. What a title! Weirdly enough, this isn't even the longest title in this series. So this was an eBay auction that was super cheap, and I didn't have to pay for international shipping or whatever, like it was also in the UK, kind of like Mystery of the Emblem. But the auction ended while I was in the middle of my work, and I was super worried like someone was going to snipe it at the last minute. Because I'm an idiot who needs Fire Emblem, I placed a bid and asked my sister to snipe it at the last minute, in case someone else was to place a bid while I was working, and thankfully enough my sister won the auction. I gave her the £20 she bid on it, and for context, a box copy of FE1 is normally worth like £50 or something, so I think we made the right call. Now I couldn't see the actual thing until a month or so later, but yeah, super cool I got this. Like I never realized how small a Famicom box was. The previous owner did draw Marth's face in the manual though. I kind of wonder if it was the original Japanese owner or the person who imported the game. Now I don't actually own a Famicom, and they're a bit more difficult to get working in PAL regions because of just stuff to do with like TV, like frequencies and stuff like that. But in 2020, they did make an official translation that was available on the eShop for a limited time. Kinda sucks it was limited, especially it was digital only, and the special edition only released in America. Like, Europe never even got a physical version, quote unquote. But it's still cool that they did that even in the first place. As for the game itself, yeah, this is definitely from the 90s. Like, certain parts do not age well, but it's surprisingly close to the standard FE format. Like, it's still 20 hours and like 25 chapters, like with a story, and like for a Famicom game, this is super impressive. Now, on a completely different note, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Shop FE, a super niche JRPG crossover between Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei about Japanese school idols. Yeah, if you were to ask the average Fire Emblem fan what games he played, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is very, very rarely brought up. Sucks because this game is actually really good. Given the nature of SMT games as a whole, which has stuff like Persona, like Soul Hackers, like Digital Devil Saga, like and the fact that most of them already take place in Japan, like this is pretty much a mainline SMT game. It's definitely more lighthearted, but to be honest, it's kind of refreshing. I played about 10 hours of the Wii U version. Story-wise, Kiora has just joined the party, but yeah, I would recommend you just play the Switch port from 2020. It does lose a bit of its charm, as you get text messages on the gamepad, and that's like really cute. But like it's much slower on Wii U, like the map is stuck on the gamepad and there's no way to have everything on the TV. The DLC is now gone because the eShop is closed, but this game is still super underrated and surprisingly high quality for such a niche game on a failed console. Speaking of underrated games, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. Definitely not as niche as something like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but like this is a remake of a Japanese only game on the 3DS after the Switch launch. And like compared to most modern foreign games, like not as many people have played this one. Do wish it came out on the Switch, but yeah, this is such a necessary remake, which to be honest should happen more often, like make games that actually need remaking. Echoes is generally considered one of the best games in the series, having a gorgeous art style by Henrai, being the first game to feature full voice acting, introduced the concept of rewind and turns to make the series more accessible than ever, and best of all, it's still incredibly faithful to Final Gaiden, while also expanding the story with the introduction of characters like the Coot, who's generally considered one of the best villains in the series. I will say, this is one of my more pointless purchases in my collection. I already own the game digitally on my 3DS and only bought this for the box. And if I release, I got this game by trading in my Wii and DS shovelware to CEX for in-store credit. So this was after the Nintendo eShop closed, and you can consider this more an investment if anything. But whilst we're still talking about Echoes, I did pick up the original game later on, Fire Emblem Gaiden. This is pretty much a repeat of what happens with FE1. I saw a box copy of this game on eBay, and like normally it's worth the price of like a new Switch game, but I saw someone was selling it for £20 and I instantly bought it. Thankfully this was just a buy it now option, so like I didn't have to worry about bids or whatever. But yeah, this is in fantastic condition. Still kind of pointless. I don't own a Famicom, so I can't play this game, but I do want to try Gaiden at some point in my life. Echoes is still the best way to experience the story, but gameplay-wise, Gaiden is very different from Echoes and Fire Emblem as a whole. I haven't played it personally, but from what I've seen, it plays more like Dragon Quest if anything, like where you explore towns and dungeons from like a top-down perspective, and then you get into like small battles like via random encounters. For comparison, Echoes streamlined the experience as a whole, like the towns are more like a visual novel if anything, and like you explore dungeons in 3D with visual encounters. And while FE2 is similar to something like Zelda 2 or Mario Bros 2 and is generally considered the black sheep of the series, Gaiden helped shape the series to how it is today, and it's also one of the first Nintendo games to have a female protagonist with Celica. Plus this game has some killer remixes in Smash Brawl. Anyway, next up is probably the most controversial game in the series, Fire Emblem Fates. So just as a disclaimer, this copy of Conquest is actually my sister's, but like similar to Echoes, I have Fates digitally on my 3DS since its release, so I brought Birthright just to the box and don't own Conquest yet. Unlike Echoes though, the digital copy of Fates is actually a bit different from the physical releases of Birthright and Conquest, and it's honestly kind of the definitive way to play the game. So in Fates, you're born to one family but then raised by another, and then the two families are at war with each other, and at some point you decide to join one of the two families. Great concept, but your choice is predetermined if you go with a physical release. And the fact that like Conquest is significantly more difficult than Birthright really made the marketing, like practice, whatever, like not ideal. With the digital release, if I remember correctly, you pay full price for the game, but you only download the first 6 chapters. Then, when you make your choice in chapter 6, you download the rest of that particular route for free. So I guess it's sort of like a demo. So aside from the fact that they did a dual release and the fact that it's technically $80 if you want the full experience, because there's 3 routes total. Faces such a tonal shift from the style of most Fire Emblem games, being like way more anime and tropey. and the story itself has a ton of plot holes and stuff like that. I personally don't mind this direction, but it honestly seems like Intelligent Systems wants to continue down this anime style of storytelling, with them developing heroes and engage afterwards. And while Three Houses was a lot more grounded and serious, Koei Tecmo was the ones who mostly developed that game. With all that being said, I still love Fates. Out of the three 3DS games, I easily played this one the most. Gameplay wise, Fates was probably the best in the series back in 2016 or so. My Castle was a fantastic addition, like the chapters felt so much more interactive because of the Dragon Fame mechanic. It had 3 routes, and child units, so it had a ton of replay value, had online multiplayer, I could keep going. However, considering the story is not the best, and the fact that the Nintendo eShop and Spot Pass are both gone, Fates will ever be in a gimped, incomplete state, I hope this receives a modern port or remake in the future. Just like Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE Encore. Wow, deja vu! So I always wanted to get the Switch port of Tokyo Mirage Sessions ever since it was announced in 2019, but I think like many, it was too niche to warrant a purchase. And after my sister got me the Wii U version for my birthday, I was expecting that would be the way I would experience Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but only like a few months later, for Christmas, my mother got me a copy of the Switch port. We both have no idea why she got it, because I didn't ask for it because of me having the Wii U version, and she obviously doesn't know what the hell a Tokyo Mirage Session is. I did ask for it about a year or so ago, and I gave her an Amazon link, but it was out of stock when she tried to do it, and I guess it was still in her recently fused or something like that. Still weird because everything else was what I expected for Christmas, and there wasn't any doubles or anything. It was literally just everything I asked for, plus Tokyo Mirage Sessions. But I'm very happy with this. I already talked about it earlier, but the Switch port is just so much better. It runs better, looks better, plays better, it has all the DLC forever preserved on the cartridge, it even has new content. However, this port is a little bit controversial because back in 2015, they changed certain things during localization, such as making characters older or removing devices for channel bones. So when they re-released it in 2020, they used the most recent version of the game for a worldwide release, but that includes Japan. It doesn't make much of a difference to us, but the Switch port was essentially a censored version for Japanese players, and Nintendo had to offer refunds because they never specified it was based on the Western release. But that aside, I'm so glad that they ported this game to Switch. A bit weird that they made the jump before games like Mario 3D World, but hey, we'll take it. Compared to other Wii U ports on Switch, this is kind of like a high highs, low lows kind of port. I already mentioned how the game runs better and it includes all the DLC and all that stuff. But they kind of just barfed the Wii U's gamepad stuff onto the plus button. I wish they designed the UI better to work with a single screen. This kind of still feels like it's designed for something that has 2 screens. That and the fact that they still use Japanese voice lines. They gave them English voice lines in Heroes.
Age 18. I'm an idol with Fortuna Entertainment.
When they added a few to promote the game, but they still use Japanese voices in the Switch port. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but they speak Japanese during battles and there's no subtitles. So I have no clue what they're saying. Anyway, this game is still very underrated. I think this actually sold worse than the Wii U version, funny enough. Well, at least initial sales. But yeah, I would still highly recommend this, especially if you're an S&T fan. And that is my Fire Emblem collection. As a recap, that includes FE1, FE2, FE3, FE4, FE8, FE9, FE10. Although weirdly enough, the Sacred Stones and Path of Radiance came out on the same day in Europe, so technically speaking it could be like this. That's messed up. FE13, FE14, FE15, FE17, and finally some spin-offs. So outside of my physical collection, I own FE7, Shy Dragon, Three Houses, the Switch version of Fire Emblem Warriors, and the other 2 routes in Fates. Also, I technically have the Band & Blade on Nintendo Switch Online, but that's in Japanese and that's tied to the subscription service, so I don't really own that. And as for the games I'm missing, there's Frasier 776 for the Super Famicom, again, for obvious reasons. The new 3DS version of Fire Emblem Warriors, which is one of the cheapest games I could find. And finally, FE12 on the Nintendo DS. Fire Emblem, New Mirage of the Emblem, Heroes of Light and Shadow. Weirdly enough, this isn't the longest title in the series.